Hi there, I'm Jeanette Lane, and in today's video we're going to be doing a little bit of stamp masking, and I have different ways here to achieve a stamp mask effect. So I've got masking fluid, sticky notes, copy paper, a masking sheet. So let's dive into the video. Now you can do masking with pretty much any stamp set, but I'm going to be using this sailboat and this little sun here. And this is just an example. This is not our finished card, but I wanted to show you what these stamps look like just in and of themselves. And the stamp set that I'm using is a Set Sail from Apple Blossom. Okay, so there's different ways to achieve stamp masking effects. You can create stamp masks from sticky notes. You can stamp your image and then paint it with masking fluid, like this one from Cosmic Shimmer, or you can also use a masking sheet and stamp your masking sheet, cut it out, and then protect your stamps. So stamp masking allows you to layer stamping to, like if you wanted to put like 3 additional sailboats without the art, without these stamp lines overlapping, then you could do that with a stamp mask. So first thing is first, we're going to start off with an A6 size card blank here. And what we're going to do is create a little mask. Now this isn't a stamp mask. This is just a wave mask. So I have a piece of A4 size copy paper here. I have our piece of copy paper and I'm just going to trim some waves just like that. Some like little peaks and valleys for our mask. So really easy. Now, if you want to draw your waves first, if that makes you more comfortable, if you want to draw them with a pencil and then cut your pencil lines, you can do that. Or if you actually have a stencil like this, then you can use a stencil. But again, this is just copy paper that I'm going to trim in a wave pattern. And you can also use this technique to create some clouds in the sky. Instead of those harsh ridges, you would kind of do a little bit more kind of like a soft wave. Okay, so here are my waves. They're not completely straight. Whoopsies. Sorry about that. So there's my card blank. I'm going to put my mask right over that. And I'm going to grab this sailboat stamp here. Beautiful. And my hybrid ink pad. I'm using hybrid ink because then that way I can decide later if I want to color my stamp with watercolors or alcohol markers. This hybrid ink works with both mediums. So I don't have to decide right away what I want. And I'm going to stamp this ever so slightly above my, right on top of my wave mask, because I want it to appear like the bottom half of the boat is in the water. So here you can see that the mask has blocked that bottom half of, not the bottom really, not the full half, but just a little section of the boat so that it looks like it's underneath some waves. So now I'm going to do some ink blending on top of my sailboat, but I need to protect it because I want it to be nice and pristine and white so that I can color it with different colors. Sorry, what I have done is just stamped my sailboat onto the sticky note, making sure, so this is what it looked like kind of when I stamped it, making sure that some of my stamping is directly on the sticky part so that it does have a little bit of tackiness to adhere it to my card base. But we're going to try our hand with these sticky notes. So next up, we're going to grab our distress inks. I'm going to be using a few colors. So let's start off with the, let's do a faded blue jeans. That looks nice. Okay, so then I have my mini ink blending tool. All right, and we're gonna grab our mask here that we have used previously. And we're gonna line up our mask once more, just as we had it before. And then we're gonna ink over this. So we're gonna go right over our sailboat, and I have a hand on top of my I've got a finger holding my mask down, so this one down, but then also making sure that the sticky note doesn't budge. This is why I highly recommend using a stamping mask, but I wanted to use a sticky note just to show you that yes, it's still possible to do a little bit of stamp masking with just a sticky note. Okay, so now we are going to shift our mask upwards right on top of our sail here. So there you can see it. Maybe I'll slide it down just a little bit. And then we're gonna switch colors on our mini ink blending tool. So I'm gonna go ahead and use Seedless Preserves, and we're going to use this for the night sky. So we're gonna start maybe there, that looks good, and just start blending right over our masks. Now we're not gonna go all the way to the top. Okay, so we have our sky and our sea, and you'll see how this all makes sense in just a bit. But first what we're gonna do is draw some stars up here in the night sky before we move on to inking the rest of this. Now, if you have a star stamp, definitely use these star stamp, but if you don't, then you can just freehand draw some stars. So I'm just have an alcohol marker here, and we're just gonna draw some stars up here in the night sky. Okay, so now that we have our stars drawn, or if you ended up stamping your stars, what you can do next is grab your masking fluid, since it'll be kind of difficult to cut little post-it notes for those tiny itty bitty stars. So what you can use is some masking fluid and a paintbrush. So I'm gonna open this up. It might be a little gummy inside, sorry, because when it dries, it turns into like a gummy kind of thing. A gummy kind of texture. And we have our masking fluid on our paintbrush, and we're just going to paint right over our stars. And it looks like you're painting with green paint, but when this dries, it'll protect your image underneath, whatever it is, whether it's drawn or whether you have stamped your image, it'll protect it underneath, and then when it dries, you just rub it off very easily. You can speed up the drying process of masking fluid with a heat tool, but just be careful and do a test swatch beforehand. Depending on the brand of masking fluid that you have, it might make this part a little bit more difficult, a little bit trickier. So always make sure to swatch it beforehand to make sure that you are not gonna mess up your paper or your project. Also, make sure to clean your paintbrush right away, because as you saw, when this masking fluid dries up, it gets really gunky. So you don't want a gunky paintbrush, so make sure to clean it right away under some soapy warm water. While I'm waiting for my stars to dry up at the top, I'm going to take my mask and flip it over and put it at the very bottom, and then I'm going to grab my Salty Ocean Distress ink, and I'm gonna just ink the bottom part of my card, sorry. So I've got Salty Ocean here. I've just shifted down my mask ever so slightly. Whoops. Now what I'm gonna do at this point is remove my mask, because if you remember, we have that little section there. Totally forgot about it, that it's under the water. And we're just gonna go right over it with our Salty Ocean. And as we color it in, it'll appear like it's under the water. So we have a mark here where the mask was very effective, but if I just go over it a few times with the Salty Ocean, it should all work out. So I'm just going back over here. I'm going to switch over the colors in just a bit. Sorry, I don't want to confuse you, but I forgot about our little mask under the boat there. Okay, so we're going to switch it up. So there it is. We're going to go right there, move our mask down. Let me make sure the Salty Ocean is all right here at the bottom, all the way to the bottom. So now I can place my mask over it again. So sorry for that confusion. I hope you weren't confused. And I'm gonna move over to Mermaid Lagoon. We got our mask back in place. And we're just gonna go over it. Over this section here. So here's what our card looks like thus far. And for some reason, the camera is showing this bottom part a little bit distorted. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add a photograph so that you can see it looks much different in real life. So hopefully that little splodge, because it just looks like splodges here, but they're pretty blended. They look blended to me, but on camera it's just not picking it up properly. So I do apologize for that. I'm going to fix that problem. So we can now, once these are dry, we can continue inking the rest of our night sky. So at this point we've done our masking at the bottom, but I kind of want to add just one more little wave here to break this up. So I'm going to go maybe right here in the center. And I'm going to grab, let's do evergreen bow. Sometimes the sea can look a little bit green, and evergreen bow has just a tinge of green to it. So we'll add another wave just right here. That looks a lot better. Then we have some extra interest there with all our different waves. Nice. Okay, so we are still waiting for these to dry, our little masking fluid to dry. So what I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment while I'm waiting, because why not? That's a good thing to do. So I'm going to grab this. Let's see. We're going to grab this one that says, "Let your dreams set sail." So I wanted to stamp that right there, right on top of our waves. And again, I'm turning to my hybrid ink pad, and we're just going to ink up our sentiment. Again, it says, "Let your dreams set sail." And we'll stamp that right here next to the sailboat. That'll do. And also notice that our mask is now off of our sailboat. And I figure while we're still waiting for that masking fluid to dry, I'm just letting it air dry. I don't want to use my heat tool on it in case it'll warp my cardstock. So this is why we are kind of switching up this tutorial a little bit. So I do apologize. So what I'm going to do is color my sailboat. And I'm going to gravitate towards maybe some oranges. And I'm going to color them with some alcohol markers. You can use alcohol markers or watercolor inks because we've used our hybrid inks. So we're going to start off here. These markers are little tipsy markers, and they're a good starter set in case you've never worked with alcohol markers before. I do recommend little tipsy markers. I'm not getting too fancy with my alcohol markers and my ink blending or anything like that. I'm just trying to color these in a solid color. Now for our sail, I'm going to use this color, which is just a light baby blue, like just a dusty blue. And we're going to color our sails. And I'm also going to use some light grays. So again, nothing too fancy schmancy, just trying to put a little bit of color onto these sails. So I wanted to add some fun detail and highlights to my card, and I've grabbed a white gel pen, and I'm just going to do little polka dots just to make it fun. It's a fun little quirky card with those hand-drawn stars on top. So we're just going to do little dots all on the boat, make it a little bit more fun. And now I'm going to draw some stripes on my sail. So now that I have the stripes on my sailboat, I also wanted to add a little bit of white here to the crests of the wave, just to make this a little bit more artsy, give it a more artistic effect. Our stars, our masked stars are finally dry. So we're gonna go back to the not dusted Concord. I think that's a different color. Sorry, seedless preserves. Is dusty Concord even a distressing color? I can't remember at this moment. All right, so we're gonna go back here. I'm gonna put our mask back onto our sailboat just so we don't forget. And we have it nice and colored the way that we want. And then we blend right over those masked stars. Now I wanted to go back to the faded jeans that we originally started with down here and add a little bit of that at the very tippity top, just because I think it'll tie everything together nicely. Kind of mix it with the seedless preserves here a little bit, and then go at the top here. Okay, our background, our blending is all done, and what I'm going to do now is just peel back the stars that we masked earlier with that masking fluid. So there you can see that. So we're going to do the same thing for all of the stars. Just peel that back ever so slowly. Go slow, especially if you are using a really large stamp, like you've just masked a very large stamp. You want to make sure that you don't tear your paper at this part. You shouldn't, but just be better to be safe than sorry. So as you're peeling away the masking fluid, just be very careful. So I'm done with my stamping, my inking, my masking, and now I'm just gonna mount this card front onto my card base and just gonna glue that down, and I'm done. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you real soon.